of the United States and to the republic stands one, indivisible, with sorry. And because there's never not a technical difficulty on my end, 1.02 was the Pledge of Allegiance. 1.03 is approval of the agenda for possible action.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I've got enough motions and seconds that we are good to go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. 1.04 is the introduction of our Elko County School District Student Board Member, Scotty Adams.
Scotty Adams is a senior at Spring Creek High School with a 3.7 cumulative GPA. He is involved with Student Council and is SCHS's Student Body President for the 24-25 school year. Scotty is a member of the Spring Creek High School cross-country team and Spring Creek High School track team. His future plans are to graduate high school with a 4.0 GPA, serve a 2-year LDS mission, and after that, attend college to search for a career. Welcome, Scotty.
Welcome back, Scotty. Thank you very much for joining us. Anything you want to say before we begin the meeting? No pressure. All right. Perfect. All righty then. 1.05 is, actually, we need to go back because where is our public comment? Is that all the way at the end? All right. Okay, 1.05 is receive a portrait of a Nevada learner. This is a presentation from Southside Elementary and is a non-action item. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Steve Cunningham, principal at Southside Elementary. Appreciate you guys having us tonight. We have a little video for you, and I'll let these guys introduce themselves. And these guys have kind of spearheaded this Portrait of a Nevada Learner project that you're about to see.
I am Ashley Meadows, 4th grade teacher and team lead of our Portrait of a Nevada Learner.
Hi, I'm Jamie Donnelly and I teach 3rd grade, and this will be my third year as part of Portrait.
My name is Audrey Carr. I teach 4th grade at Southside as well. I'm also the literacy specialist, and I've been on there since day one with Ashley as well.
Maria Spence, kindergarten teacher at Southside, and also started first day with Ashley and Audrey.
It was really just understanding what most students need for them to be successful.
Always wanted to create an environment that supports everybody, like that everybody feels that they belong to, not just students, but teachers, everybody.
I wanted to alleviate some of the behaviors in my classroom and get more. I realized that the behaviors were impeding learning.
And really, I found out that you're right, the social emotional is a big portion of it. And I think I would be the first one to tell you, I resisted it at first.
We quickly realized that it wasn't about changing those emotions, but being able to embrace them, to understand what they were feeling and to break it down.
It's back to that pyramid type model where you give them what they need at the foundation. Hopefully that will eliminate the bigger emotions, but
mostly a check in, check out. How are you feeling? But we needed to deepen that. We needed to teach them how to, like we said, regulate their emotions, talk a little bit more.
I want to find a way that I can piggyback off of what they're doing in the classroom for behavioral students that I have in my office.
And throughout the year, we've been working on just those, how to be kind, how to introduce yourself, what does focus look like?
I'm taking more time out of the morning to show them this lesson and to work on this lesson, but then they're wanting it. They're craving it. So then we started diving into the emotions and we started trying to find resources until 360 came along and gave us more of a direction to go. And it gave us that ability to see the bigger picture and not the right now. And then we started being able to see the child as a whole. the influences on their lives, the struggles that they were going through, and to break it apart into more manageable components that we could support them with.
In a proactive way
In a
versus,
yes,
Yeah.
yes, proactive, yes, because we were definitely in the moment.
I'm intentionally teaching social emotional skills daily, and it's focused. It's not just off the top of my head. I have a really great lesson to go off of.
The classroom teachers did an amazing job rolling out the curriculum. Students were getting it. They were helping each other. Like, I was seeing it every day. It was really cool. So I think the process was great. I can't wait to see it whole school, because then I really think we're gonna see a bigger impact.
Like, they're our kids, not just the teacher does. Yeah, the our thing.
That we're loyal, we don't lie, we're honest, we keep our hands to ourselves, and we make a good relationship with others.
Do you want to keep the house system for next year?
I love the house system and how the kids are now mingling and having the same conversations in their houses.
To have a house meeting
The house meetings?
and earning coins. I like that we get together with different classes, not like just your 4th grade class, your 2nd grade class, or any of that.
Do you want to keep the houses for next year?
Yeah, definitely.
Include everybody that is part of the houses. And now that we want to implement it through the whole school, I mean, nobody is going to be left out.
I like about the houses is that there's a lot of people to help me. I think that the houses help me learn more about our skills.
And I have a student in my classroom, and when he was part of my house, he has not taken the shirt off. The collaboration piece, and I feel like we practice what we teach.
What is self-awareness?
Like, let's say you're talking over something or over somebody, then you could stop talking. Self-awareness means thinking about your feelings and other people's.
So beginning of the year, we could not find the words. The words were good that they wanted to use. Yeah. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling good.
What is self-management?
So keeping yourself in control.
you can express yourself here and not feel shamed or wronged for just having a conversation about something that's been bugging you.
You're trying to get to your goal.
Kids to be able to release and feel comfortable.
Are responsible.
Oh, being responsible. I like that. Good job. So, like the social awareness part, even just being able to look at other people and be able to say like, oh, well, this is why they're doing that, or this could be a reason.
It's people's feelings.
I definitely think that the biggest success with this has been the students advocating for each other.
What are relationship skills?
They're being nice and play friends. Or when you have like a relationship with something, or with someone, like a bond.
Teaching the kids and modeling, okay, now maybe this is the time when you ask, what can I do to make your day better?
How can you show empathy towards others?
Telling that I care about them.
And then just having that conversation in our classroom, being able to listen to each other and give feedback even.
So it's just being able to communicate a little bit better with everybody.
What are some strategies you can use to solve conflicts peacefully?
Is you can either walk away or tell your teachers or just say, oh, I don't want to fight right now, or I'm not feeling like today to do it.
I think it truly is about celebrating one another.
I think the biggest aha would be how tight our team has become. So that really would be my success, is that what we did worked. And it may not have changed everything, but it made them feel successful.
It has been incredible to see them grow together in ways that I have never seen before. ever. In all my years of teaching, I've never seen this, and this is phenomenal.
Throughout the day, kids would say, oh, that's self-regulation, or look what you're doing. You're being self-aware of what you know and don't know and this math problem. So they were using the words. Had I not even considered it, we would have never had those moments in class. That's how I knew what you're doing is working, even if it's here and there and everywhere. It was worth it. So again, I was my own challenge and it was time, but it was well worth it. And it still is.
So like I said, he had a SEL block put into our schedule daily, and we'll go full house system starting second quarter. So we're excited about kind of the start of it and where it's going to go. Do you guys have any questions or?
Before you ask questions, I'll also just add in, I've been able to witness the great work that they're doing from the SEL standpoint. Back when this whole kind of Nevada Future of Learning and Portrait of a Graduate stuff started at the state level, Southside was one of the very first schools to jump on board. They've presented at our NAS Superintendent's Academy in Lake Tahoe as kind of an exemplary program that's happening elsewhere in the state, and did a great job there. They've just been leading the way in this regard, and it ties. I just want to make sure you have that connection, that this ties in with some of the Nevada Future of Learning stuff that I've been doing, including a trip last week for that, and something that all of our district admin participated in this summer, or our district level admin, and along with Southside, we also have Liberty Peak, who's been doing it right along with them the whole time. And then we've just added 2 more schools who are doing their own kind of spin on it, and that's Flagview Elementary and Adobe Middle School. So we've got 4 schools, and the kind of the side that they're taking is it's one element of how they can approach. I love how they called it holistic, the whole learner. And so what they're doing is not like Liberty Peak is doing something totally different, but also still focusing on the student and competency-based learning. And the same has happened. Adobe's doing their own approach and Flagview their own approach. But I love the outside the box thinking. I frequently talk about the coalition of the willing, and it's really easy to get set in your ways, I think, in any job, but I've seen it in what I do. It's so easy to just be like, well, this is how I do it. But I'm not going to like call out ages or how long people have been teaching, but I know that the kindergartner or the 4th grade student or the 3rd grade student that they had their first year of teaching, those kids are drastically different today than what they were before. So it is borderline insanity to think that I can teach them the same exact way I was taught, or the same exact way I was teaching 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, because those kids are not the same. They have different challenges, and so it makes the most sense that we adapt to those students. So I'm really proud of the work they're doing, as well as the other schools. So just wanted to make some connections there.
I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done, and I love the video of just showing the kids and you guys talking. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that, and just seeing the enthusiasm that they show, and thanks for the extra time. I mean, look, even right now, we're at 6 o'clock on a night where you could be home with your family or doing that, and you're putting the effort into this, and I want to thank you all for that. Really appreciate it. But excited to hear another update in the future, because it looks like I say, they're all very engaged, and it's such a positive message. I'm just really happy to see it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Cunningham. Appreciate the staff as well from Southside. Thank you. .06 is receiving a presentation from the American Heart Association. This is also a non-action item. There may be a green or a button down below. Turn it until it turns, or touch it until it turns green.
Okay, it's green. Check, check. wrote a little song. It goes something like this. No, just kidding. Told them I was going to do it. No, yeah. Well, no. So I'm here from the American Heart Association. I'm the senior director for all of Nevada. I'm based out of Las Vegas. But with Mr. Anderson and this crew over here from Mountain View Elementary School, in 2 days, I was so excited. I thought I'd get permission to have a media embargo release to tell you guys all about it. But in 2 days, you're going to see it on the news. We'll push it out through the media. Mountain View Elementary has been recognized nationally for their work with the American Heart Association, and specifically through a program called Finn's Mission. And just sidebar, his son's name is Finn. I don't know how that works into the whole thing. Okay. But Finn's Mission is where children and families can learn, teachers, everybody can learn hands-only CPR and the early warning signs of stroke in a fun family environment type of way. And the school gets recognition through that. And we built all the incentives and fun around it. But it's been a way that Nevada has become #1 in the country at per school families completing Finn's Mission. So in Nevada, we average about 33. In the rest of the country, they're averaging about 10. So we're really, producing good results with this program through the Nevada schools, but it's because of schools like theirs. And Jeannie is probably one of the most, in my circle of schools, recognized PE coordinator. And they started something at their school called Finn's Night, where the kids come together, families come together, learn hands-only CPR, bring out the first responders, and celebrate creating a nation of lifesavers, which is part of our program. It has since went viral. I did a presentation in Dallas, and we had about 300 people that do my job around the country say, what is this Finn's Mission Night? And luckily, we wrote the program up about 2 years ago, so it was very easy to share. All that's coming right out of here from Elko, Elko County School. So we wanted to come by, say thank you, give these guys a shout out. And by the way, Southside represents too, so thank you, Southside. Okay, and we're going to challenge all the principals tomorrow to get 100% of, first time ever in Nevada to get 100% participation from a school district. So that would mean that all of you guys would have to complete Finn's Mission. And I can send you a QR code where you can sign up for any school of your choice at Elko. And we were out at Carlin Combined today, or I was out at Carlin Combined, and we're going to try a new high school version of the program. It's not new, but they're going to try this new version where it's a week to save lives. And they're going to have the high school led people do it. High school students lead the program and just sign up right there in class on campus and do it and be promoted to help support the elementary school. And in the high school version, we have a scholarship and grants available for the kids and students that lead it, as well as they can earn 10 community service hours. And so we're really doing a lot of great things here in Elko, and I wanted to make sure you guys knew about it. And as of the 19th, you'll hear a lot more about it. And I want to say a special thank you to Mr. Anderson. So thank you for everything you've been doing to help us out. Okay, and this crew right here, the reason why it's so successful is their staff. Ms. Etchemini allows us to do staff meetings and encourage the teachers to see our yearly resources, year-round resources that they can use on the daily. And then when we do the Kids Heart Challenge, it includes all of our keynote things that we want everybody to learn, which is hands-only CPR, the early warning signs of stroke, and then our pillars, which are to say no to vaping and tobacco and no bad habits. Make sure you drink plenty of water, eat your fruits and vegetables, make sure you exercise 60 minutes a day, get plenty of sleep. By the way, did all of you guys get 8 hours of sleep last night? Raise your hand if you did. See, you got to join. Okay, but anyway, and all these things come tied together in a package where it's led by these people and these people back here, and the kids have fun learning heart healthy habits and learning how to save a life. And I always like to say this to everybody: listen, it's awesome that you know CPR. Okay, hopefully everybody here does, right? Okay, but you got to make sure the people around you do. Because if you go down, you have no control. Okay, so it's very important that everybody learns it. And again, thank you to these guys. And Gina, if you want to say anything about how awesome the program is, the way you do it.
Well, it's so awesome. I had a 3rd grader come in today and say, I finished Finn's Mission and I've raised $278 already. And we haven't even kicked off. We don't do it until February. So that to me tells me that the kids are excited and that it's something they want to do. They're constantly asking, when are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? And I like to tie in lessons on each of those different things. I'll cover 1 or 2 a week, go really in depth. What does it mean to eat your fruits and vegetables? What does it mean to get enough sleep? Why do we need to learn hands-only CPR and the early signs of stroke, as well as actually doing the physical activities that we do in PE. So, and the Finn's Mission Night, that was just a goal that I had because I didn't feel like the parents really knew what was going on. I can tell a kindergartner finished Finn's mission, and do they really know what that means? So this was a way to bring the parents in, show them what we're doing, help them with whatever they needed help with, and it has been very successful. Last year, we were able to complete 78 Finn's missions, and our goal this year is over 100. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and we, because of Elko's participation, because of leaders like this, I put together with the American Heart Association, understanding that we're going to do the Nevada Heart Strong Project. And our goal, and my goal, is within 5 years to have 100,000 people participating in this program. Whether it's families and schools or just the kids from the schools and the educators, but a combined 100,000, and to complete 25,000 Finn's missions. Okay, so we've been number one. I'm going to encourage us to stay number one, and then the rest of the country can follow suit. Okay, but anyway, if everybody could do this real quick, because it's on live TV, put your hands like the heart symbol. Okay, and just say, I am. Then you got to flex your muscles. Say, a heart hero. Heart. Very good. So appreciate it. And again, another round of applause for Mountain View, you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Brandon or the team? All right, I do want to just say this really quick. My day job is at the Senior Center. Stroke and CPR knowledge, or early signs of stroke and CPR knowledge, is very relevant to what we do. Just recently, we had somebody leave in an ambulance from the center with possible stroke. So let your kiddos know that, yes, this is a real world application, could help grandma or grandpa, or, aunt or uncle, or just somebody that's, a stranger on the street. So really, really, for me personally, thank you. But also as a member of the school board, that's pretty awesome. So well done. Thank you. All righty. 1.07 is receipt and presentation from Pool PACT Enterprise Risk Management Excellence Program. This is a non-action item, and I believe they'll be joining us remotely.
We are. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Excellent. Well, my name is Marshall Smith. I'm here with Jared Hickman. Together, we comprise the risk management team for Pool PACT. I want to thank you very much for allowing us to be at your meeting tonight. We have a short presentation. We'd love to be out there, but we were just out there last week or so when we presented our Enterprise Risk Management Conference, first ever. And we had a good showing from the Elko County School District. The superintendent was there. We had Sergeant Berbreska, Paul, Cody, Matt, Mac, a couple of others, but we appreciated seeing everybody out there. So the reason we're doing this tonight is to introduce the board to the Pool PACT Enterprise Risk Management program. The reason that we're doing this is Pool PACT sponsored a grant that paid for Dr. Ashbury to come and present at the board workshop last week. And so when Pool PACT provides a risk management grant or an educational grant, part of the return is that the member take part in a relevant section of the Enterprise Risk Management Program. And we're going to tell you a little bit about that and why we commend it to your most serious attention. But first, and I know you've probably heard this through when one of us are out there presenting before the board at renewals in June, but what Pool PACT is and what it is not. Pool PACT is a nonprofit, intergovernmental, statutorily created entity. So it's a nonprofit. It's made up of 140 public entities in Nevada and only in Nevada. And it is designed, built, its primary purpose is to provide services to its members. So unlike a private insurance company, we have, Pool PACT has no private shareholders. So there's no reason for us to charge more in premiums or pay less in claims so that we can save money and then give that money to private shareholders. There are no private shareholders. all of the programs and services that we provide come as a benefit to the members. All right, now next, the understanding enterprise. We've been working on a way to graphically show what this is. And first of all, it's understanding enterprise risk management. What is an enterprise? Every one of our members, from cities, counties, school districts, general improvement districts, are enterprises. And as an enterprise, every department within that enterprise is directly connected to every other department. And we like to think this graph explains that. These are not separate silo departments that have no impact on each other. They each have a direct impact, and you all know that we have great, you think of a great department that you have because they have great leaders. They have great managers that have best practices, and their employees are engaged and productive as a result of that. And as a result of that, you deliver excellence in public service. And that department has a very positive impact on every other department. The converse is true. We know departments where they are lacking in leadership, lacking in good sound policies. And therefore, there's those employees are less engaged, less productive. And that department has a direct relation and impact on the enterprise as a whole. So that's why we focus on these core departments in the enterprise risk management program. We work with each director or manager or supervisor of each one of these departments. And we work through anywhere from 30 to 40 best practices, questions that probe and determine those practices that are in place and how they are functioning. And right now we have 22 members that are processing through the program. And we have 4 school districts that are right in the middle of this. Lincoln, Pershing, Mineral, and White Pine counties are progressing through this very well. Okay, Jared, go to the next one.
Thank you. And again, my name is Jared Hickman, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you briefly this evening. Marshall gave a very high-level overview of, why we call it the Enterprise Risk Management Excellence Program, and an overview of what the program is in terms of, a best practice and a best practice policy and procedure assessment. But I just want to talk a little bit about why this program matters. You can see across, the screen our first 3 goals. And so when we think about the tenets of enterprise risk management, as a theory or a practice, we're talking about collaboration across an enterprise in terms of risk communication. We talk about fostering resiliency through planning, testing, continual improvement. And those things, when implemented through this program, lead to effective, productive, and efficient employees. And we tackle that through education. We want to ensure that supervisors are aware of those best practices. Where those best practices align with the mission, the supervisors can effectively train their employees to identify to recognize known hazards and identify new hazards and risk as they come up. And so when we go through the assessment, we make sure that not only is there a best practice in place, but employees are trained and that training is documented. So then we look at claims reduction and viable defenses. And this is important because where we have training, where we have those policies and procedures in place, where there is a cross organization understanding of how we collectively mitigate certain risk, we see those claims come down. And that documentation provides the backup material you need for viable defenses when the inevitable claim happens, because we know that claims are coming, and there is no amount of of risk management that will stop them, but we can mitigate those. And through training, through proactive planning, through establishing a resilient organization, we provide those defenses. And then there's the benefit to the pool and its members as a whole. As Marshall indicated, you are members of pool. So where all our entities have best practice policies and procedures in place, there is a market benefit. That claim reduction we can take to the markets across the globe and get reduced rates. When we have reduced rates, that translates back to our membership as reduced premiums and increased services. And those are risk management services that we provide to the districts, the counties, the cities and towns at no additional cost. So that enterprise model really applies to the pool as a whole as well and directly benefits you. So next we talk about how we go about doing this. Marshall, we've talked about best practice policies and procedures. We've talked about training. But the assessment is really a department by department series of questions that focus on those policies and procedures, those plans that are necessary to build resilient entities that are able to continue their essential services after a loss occurs or after disaster strikes. We are looking at through a bevy of subject matter experts that helped us develop each of these sections, ensuring that these practices are not only best practice, but they're compliant with Nevada and federal law where that's applicable. But I think the thing that really distinguishes this through a number of, I would say risk pool related acknowledgement or recognition programs is the fact that it's not just a check the box. Where there is an issue or an opportunity identified, we don't just provide the department head a policy and expect them to take it and run. We work with that department head in creating or tailoring one that is specific to the unique circumstances of all our entities because they are all different. And we assist in implementation. Once it gets board's approval, for instance, I think a safety committee is a good example here. Once that committee is up on its feet, it receives board approval. We work through the first series of meetings to ensure that it's operational and the purpose of that policy, that practice, that committee is being accomplished. So it's not just here's a policy, here's a procedure, run with it. We really try to focus on making sure it's implemented and that training occurs to ensure that all are in place and operational.
So now the nuts and bolts of this. And so you say, well, why should we do this? And we have found that of all of the members who are engaged in this, that is particularly of interest to trustees, commissioners, county and city managers, superintendents, because all of those offices, they're responsible for the operation of their entity. That's why they were either elected or that's why they're in that job. They're responsible for each one of these departments. This program allows them to understand where each department is relative to its best practice policy, relative to the functioning of that department, relative to everything else. And so what we do is we work with each department head. Like for cybersecurity, we'd set up a time to work with Mac and we send him the series of questions, and then we set up a time at his convenience. And we have these meetings that are never longer than an hour. And we process through each question. And if he says he needs a policy or we recommend a policy, we'll send it. We'll do a follow-up email. Then we do the same thing with fiscal controls, which is everything is connected to fiscal controls. How is the money coming in? How is it being spent? Alan Colt, our CFO for Pool PACT, sits in every one of those meetings. And then as we process through each section, we keep the board apprised of the progress. Another nuts and bolts, you have 3 years to complete the program. We had the most recent member to complete this was Carson City School District, and it did it in 4 months. So it just depends on the focus, the determination here of you know, the engagement. And then I think Jared talked to you about the essence of this is not just check the box. We truly look at whether you have a best practice policy in place. The relevant staff have been trained to it, and all training is documented. All right, so like we say, we got 3 years to do it. And likely, if you're engaged, you can do this in less than 3. All right, Jared.
So when we showed you the process from application to award, once all sections are in place and operational, the Enterprise Risk Management Committee reviews the application and approves the award. The district receives 3 things. First, recognition. We think it's important to tell your community of the great lengths that you have gone through to ensure you have built a resilient, effective, and efficient public entity. So we work with our marketing agency to draft a press release that we will release to the news outlets in your community. And we highlight not only the fact that the entity has achieved the award, achieved the recognition, but all the major players, the department heads that pitched in to achieve the award. Because it's very important to us that those individuals are recognized. We also provide a very classy plaque that you can hang in your chambers to allow members of the public that attend your meetings that you have achieved this award. Representation is a second component. As you know, our governing boards consist entirely of members of the entities that form both Pool and PACT. But for the Enterprise Risk Management Committee, which sets the direction, the programs of our risk management efforts, the only way to land on that board is by achieving this award. All the members of our current board have achieved this award in the past and are either working through it now to renew their status as an award recipient or have received that award. So that puts you in that governing board. And then the third thing is the financial award. As recognition for completing the program, we provide risk management grants. Grant is not quite an accurate word, but risk management financing for the entity's future risk management projects, efforts, programs in an amount that's dependent upon the employee population, the sections completed in the program, and whether or not the entity is a member of Pool, PACT, or both. And for the school district, the baseline award is approximately $8,500. And then over the next 2 years, during that 3-year award period, there are opportunities for 20% supplements for that award. So in total, with the baseline award and then supplemental awards, there's a potential for approximately $12,000 to the district to use on risk management projects, programs, acquisitions, and things related to the mitigation or reduction or elimination of risk to your entity, your employees, and the public it serves.
And then just quickly, this is our website. You say, well, how do you get involved in it? You go to our website and it'll take the superintendent or a board member that wants to engage the district in this. And you can click right here and see, we want to show you just, there's the submission form. We make it as easy as cream cheese to get into the program. And then if we can look at a couple of questions here. You can go here and see what kind of questions they are. These are representative for each one of the sections. So we got risk management, HR, of course, is the HR, fiscal controls, cybersecurity, which is critical. We know that slips, trips, and falls are the most critical danger that employees have. But cybersecurity, a cyber incident, is the number one risk that any member has. And then we have a board governance section where we speak with the entire board or a board member and go over that. Vehicle fleet, transportation, and so we give you representative samples of each one. And then, of course, we have school districts. And Ann Alexander wrote most of these. I worked with Ann very closely on these questions. And these are questions that Ann, through all of her experience in working with all our school districts, said these are the essential policies that should be in place and operational. So that's where you go to if you're interested in engaging in the program. And that's the nature and extent of our presentation tonight. It's simple to start. And we point out that, high 90% of every question in this program is required by Nevada revised statutes, the administrative code, or federal law. So we are not saying to engage in this, if everything was perfect world. This is what's required of our members right now. And I just end with this note where this program, when we had our enterprise risk management conference in Elko last week, we had one of our keynote speakers, a guy by the name of Robert Ruiz, who's the associate risk management director for the Texas Association of Counties. It's a big outfit. And he reviewed this program, and he says throughout his travels throughout the country, visiting different risk pools, he's never seen a program as comprehensive as this, or as beneficial to members as this. So we're not selling anything here. You are Pool PACT. You get this as a result of membership, as a benefit of membership. And please know that we are standing by. You can call us anytime, email us for more information about this. And again, I thank you. I know you got a busy agenda, for your time and attention, and we are standing by. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marshall. Thank you, Jared. Also, thank you very much for your assistance with bringing Dr. Ellsbury to Elko and for us to be able to visit with him. Jared, I apologize. I didn't get a chance to visit with you on the one session that I did attend when you guys were here in Elko at the convention center, but I do appreciate very much you guys helping us with Dr. Ellsbury. Comments or questions from the board?
I just had a quick question regarding on page 3 under board governance, number 2, talks about a copy of the Nevada County Commissioner Handbook. And I just wanted to get pointed in the right direction for that. It's not something I'd heard of.
That is a handbook that one of our members, Joni Eastley, who is now a town council member in the beautiful town of Tonopah, she wrote that when she was a commissioner in Nye County. And it's essentially a Bible for new board members, and we'd be happy to get that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
And it was produced in and Marshall, I think you said this, but it's produced with Nevada Association of Counties. It is up on their website, the 2023 edition. You can just search the Nevada County Commissioner Handbook and NACO, and it'll take you right to it.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions from the board? Anything further from staff?
I was just going to say, I really like the idea of doing this. I looked through a lot of the sample questions and think that it is very comprehensive and would love to see where we stand as a district in all of these different areas, and then have a good idea of what we need to work on and what we need to work towards. But I appreciate the presentation and think this would be very beneficial.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this evening. And we look forward to seeing you the next time you're in our neck of the woods. Have a great night.
Thank you for your time.
All righty. 1.08 is input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments to the general public. or by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. The speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. I know that we've got 2 young ladies that would like to visit with the board. So if you want to come on up first.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I know I'm hopefully by now a little bit familiar to the board, but before I get started, I just want to express my enthusiastic support over the 2 presentations I saw this evening for the house system and the CPR and stroke programs that you have going on in your schools. I think that is fantastic, and just want to say excellent work to the teachers and the board for implementing that in our schools and for the positive impact it's having on our students. So thank you. You may remember me. I am Katie Hatch, and I am here as a representative of Nevada Classical Academy Elko, and I have 3 updates that I would like to give you this evening. First, we have signed a lease, and we have taken over occupancy of the old EIAA charter school facility that is located at 1031 Railroad Street, Suite 107. Second, the State Public Charter School Authority granted us our charter on August 23rd, and so NCAE will be opening in the fall of 2025. As you know, part of the process of receiving a charter is for the school district to give their feedback to the charter authority regarding local need for another educational option for the community. And we want to thank you and express our appreciation for the time that went into your review of our very lengthy application. And we just want to thank you for the feedback that you gave to the SPCSA. And finally, we want to introduce you to our school leader, Dr. Brandolyn Thron. She's lovely. She's delightful. Dr. Thron served as a civilian microbiologist for the U.S. Army for 15 years before transitioning into education. She was an AmeriCorps outdoor educator and later associate director at Nevada Outdoor School. She has been a business owner, an instructional coach, and most recently taught high school science at Battleborn Youth Challenge Academy in Carlin. She holds advanced degrees in cell and molecular biology and environmental health and science. Since being hired as the NCAE school leader, Dr. Thron has been receiving extensive training in administrative skills and classical pedagogy with our partner school, Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas. Moving forward, Dr. Thron will be the main point of contact between NCAE and the district. We are thrilled to have her as our school leader and believe that she will make an excellent partner in our shared goals of uplifting and educating the children and youth of Elko County. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hatch. Dr. Thron?
Hi, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself, and so you have a face to the name. I'm thrilled to join the educational team of Elko County in this capacity, moving on from teaching. Also, like Katie said, I want to say thank you for your response to SPCSA, and so that we were able to get our charter and move forward with our school. I look forward to building productive and collaborative relationships with the school district and with EIAA and the other entities here in Elko County. And I think it's really important that we stand together as rural educators so that we can best serve our families and our communities and bring good things into our space that we live here. And I am just super excited for the bright future of education. And like Katie said, the 2 presentations that let us off are just so exciting, and it's just encouraging to see the good things that are happening for our families and students. So I look forward to being part of the larger educational team in this capacity and opening a school here in Elko. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there further input from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll move into our action items. 2.01 is receipt, review, and possible approval of the class size reduction plan for possible action. Mr. Anderson, do you want to, Mr. Krinka gets to take on this annual funness, because funness is a great word.
Hi there. All right, let's see if we go. As Mr. McCarty said, this is an annual thing. First year I was doing this job, they required it in July, which made as much sense as you can imagine. So last year they changed it to October 1st, which was part of the consent agenda. And we had some questions during that. So this year we made it an individual agendized item so that you can ask me questions as we go through. Class size reduction plan is, like I said, required by NRS. We have the option to either go by the regular plan or the alternative plan. The reason we have the option to go by the alternative plan is because all counties with a population of less than 100,000 get to choose that option. We have, as we have in the past, we chose that option this year. And as you can see, the ratios for class size are 16:1 for kindergarten. So it's the same. It's a little different for us for first and second grade, 22:1. Third grade is also 22:1. And since we have an alternative plan, we're also required to give our numbers for fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, which alternative plan is 25:1. So how we do that, it's pretty simple. I just take everybody's enrollment. I go through, figure out how many teachers are in each specific class or each specific grade level. Look at how many students are enrolled in that. And I start this in August. Obviously it changes. And then I think this is last updated with September 4th on there. As you can see on this is not necessarily for your information because you probably already know a lot of this, but this part is required with the application. The application, of course, is our plan. We have 563 instructional staff. Of that 563, a lot of times we get questioned how many ARL candidates we have. We have 45 ARL candidates that are included in there. We have long-term subs of 73. One thing that, remember, long-term subs are also our paraprofessionals that serve in a teaching capacity that also have a sub license. That's somewhat unique in the last 2 years. It's not often asked by the Department of Ed. There are other counties that do that. They follow suit with us. We do require that because you have to have a sub license and to be alone with students in that capacity. So in that, even though doesn't say that on there, long-term substitute teachers and what we would consider paraprofessionals, or what are often called in your schools para plus ones, equal that. So it's an instructional staff of 636. They also ask how many available substitutes we have in our district. It is 313. Those does not include the long-term subs that are already in the classroom. The 313, even though are available to work, it doesn't mean they have to, and it doesn't mean they do, but they are on our books, and we're trying to figure out ways to get them involved more with our schools and to be a part of our educational environment. The actual plan is what's going forth. I'm not going to read it to you because you've had it available to you, but like I said, is the alternative plan. If you go to the next part, our projected ratios are relatively low. They're similar to last year's. The 18.1 kindergarten, of course, is high compared to the plan, but the rest, 18, 20, 21, 21, 22. Now, on the sixth grade, you'll notice that it's 18. You're like, oh, that's considerably lower than fifth grade. The reason that's lower is because we don't count the sixth graders at Spring Creek Middle in this class size reduction because it's considered a middle school, so it's not part of the equation, so to speak. Whereas here on this side of the hill, Flagview is part of that, and so we keep those numbers. If we were to include them, it's about the same, meaning it's about 22, 23:1. It's very difficult for me to figure out which sixth grade teachers in those middle schools teach. It's hard to figure out because those teachers teach sixth, seventh, and eighth grade to determine class size. So it's pretty explanatory. And so our projected variances. So what takes place is every quarter I go through and determine based on the average daily enrollment, what was actually, how many kids are actually enrolled in those classes. Because it changes daily. And so our projected variances that we'll be requesting are, is what you can see, 21. Of course, the most is at the kindergarten level because of the high numbers, the ratio of 16:1. And then I put down which schools will probably be that. And next month, I'll have to submit the actual variance request because even though we're on an alternative plan, if we go over that, which of course we're projecting that in 21 kindergarten classes we will, then I have to ask for a variance and then present that every quarter. The rest is obviously self-explanatory. We go through, there's some dates. There's one on here that says March 15th. That is the date that we set on whether or not, or to determine Next year's staffing, we meet with the other directors and we go through and see our projected numbers and then projected budget, even though it's going to be, which is difficult to do because it's a legislative year. The reality is I start that January 1 and we start trying to figure that out. We do keep track of enrollment numbers to the point that we have reduced our certified staff over the last year based on numbers by about 11 certified staff. And that would include predominantly elementary positions, all lost through attrition except one. One was a long-term sub, and we've lost a position for administrator, and then 2 at the secondary level based on enrollment, and all through attrition. And that's about it for that, unless you have questions. Jackpot is included. Jackpot, I think there was a question last year. And Jackpot has combined classes. And when I do the class size reduction report, they do take into account combined classes. So what that means for those of you that don't know or that are listening and don't know, there would be one teacher teaching 2 grade levels. And we have that at 2 other, Wells as well. And Carlin, I think, used to, not this year. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to ask one thing. Under instructional staff, I'm just curious. It says 16 librarians. Do we really have librarians? Are they more media specialists? or-
Both, librarians / medium specialists, yes.
Okay. Because are they licensed in library science?
Yeah, it's hit and miss on those, but and when you go to certain districts, they're called library teachers too. So it's,
Okay,
but they serve the same capacity.
okay.
It's very difficult, as you probably can imagine, to get people that are licensed in library science. It quite often requires a master's degree for an equivalent position as the teacher with a bachelor's.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments for Mr. Krinka? All righty. Thank you, sir. This is an action item. How would the board like to proceed?
I'll go ahead and move to approve the class size reduction plan.
All right. Motion made by Mr. Durham. I'm going to give the second to Dr. Byers. Oh, and he's pointing that way. So,
Either way.
all right. We'll go with
It's not a
that.
competition.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you again, Mr. Krinka. 2.02 is receipt, review, and possible approval of deed of dedication of Jennings Way adjoining Adobe Middle School and possible direction of board president to sign deed. This is for possible action. Mr. Stolke.
Roadway that we kind of own. I think we had to build it to get up to Adobe Middle School when it was built at that time. So the city is just kind of going through and cleaning up some of their outstanding things, and this happened to be one of them. So they approached us and wanted to take over the road, and which would be fine by us. So
Can we at least get them to stock the fridge in the break room or something?
it seems like a fair trade-off, right?
So are we currently taking care of
No,
them?
they've
Everything's
been
already
totally
been
taking
done,
care of
right?
it. I think it's just something that kind of got
We
overlooked.
just want to make the paper look good. I mean,
Money ball.
okay.
Yeah, they've been taking care of all the maintenance and that stuff. I think they got a new road department person. And I think they were going through all that stuff and realized that, we still own that piece of property, so.
I'm going to go ahead and move that the board approve the deed of dedication for Jennings Way presented to the board by the city of Elko and direct the board president to sign the deed on behalf of the board before a notary public.
Second.
All righty. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. And since Ms. Gray isn't in here, I guess I won't sign this right now. I'll wait until she returns. See, I was waiting for the notary public because it says in presence of. All right, so I'll not jump the bit too much there. All right, 2.03 is receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy JHGC, student activity, student extracurricular participation, prevention and treatment of head injuries for possible action. This is the second time that this has come before the board. Actually, third time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Mr. Anderson.
May I take, okay. So just by way of reminder, sometime back in, I think it was late May, or actually it was late June, from the previous legislative session, there were requirements to put X, things about concussion policy in place by July 1 of 2024. So we put that into place. However, I was notified at a superintendent's meeting just a few days before that, changes would be coming to what we had to put into place. So we put in the current guidance that we had at that time with the knowledge that we were going to have to update it. And so we have received state guidance. So what the changes that you see in the red line reflect a combination of work from the new guidance that was given to us from state entities, as well as a collaboration between Paul Allen, who is our Director of Secondary Instruction, who oversees athletics in our district, legal counsel, and Bobby Shanks, our chief nurse, as well as, I think I saw Skylar in there at one point. And so some of our own nursing staff that helped put this together as well. So now you know who was part of putting it together and how we got to where we are. And if you have any questions, Paul's in the room. He can speak from the athletic side. Bobby's in the room. She can speak from the medical side. And I'm in the room too, but I hope you don't have questions for me about it.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Dastrup. This time we'll give it to Ms. Ballard for the second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 2.04 is receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy JHGC, education records, publicity. This is also for possible action. Mr. Anderson.
Yep. So this was first reading 2 weeks ago in West Wendover. And just by way of reminder, it is to freshen up, simplify, and just make the process of media releases for students, just a little easier. So new form, new process, and have a policy to guide its implementation as well. So I don't recall so there is one addition, and that came from board member suggestion last meeting. So thank you for your suggestion. And other than that, I got nothing.
Thank you, sir. Comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, I think this is pretty self-explanatory as well. I move to approve.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Thank you, Ms. Dastrup. Dr. Byers, just for clarification, Mr. Anderson, the second page is blank. That is intentional, correct? There's not any data that we're missing there?
I don't think there's anything missing.
Great. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 2.05 is receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy JCBC, rights and responsibilities, investigations and searches, law enforcement access to students. This one is also for possible action. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I'm still here. All right, so this is our second reading. There has a fair amount of time has passed between the first reading and the second reading, but several pieces of feedback were given at the time of its presentation. Some of the language cleaned up is pretty, pretty inconsequential. However, I will just reference a little bit of history for the two sections. There are two sections that are rather large that were omitted this time, or suggested to be omitted in the final version. Under 1A, that section was taken out. Oh, sorry, I should back up a little bit. This was put together with collaboration with both leadership and kind of everyday law enforcement from both the sheriff's office as well as the city police. So all changes and suggestions are in collaboration with everybody. And Ray Smith, our director of school improvement, ended up being kind of the lead on collaborating with them to get this one done. So thanks to everyone for their efforts. So that section in 1A that is suggested to be removed is because of reality of law enforcement practice. They are not required to, in any situation, necessarily have that paperwork that is referenced there. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it isn't. And so for us to require, it is their opinion that for us to require that would be just not a reality of how arrests take place and the work that a police officer does every day. So that is why that was suggested to be removed. Those same types of documents are referenced in the other area that is suggested to be removed, and that is the entirety of 1E. So it references those types of documents. It also talks about a principal or designee having to document the circumstances of the arrest in a written statement. That was just another suggestion that not be necessarily a requirement. When it comes, lots of times we try to make sure that our principals understand the difference between what is police work and what is school administrator work and education, and documenting, doing official documents about arrests, that sort of thing. That is not school work. That is, police officers already fill out reports about their arrests and their activity, and those are submitted to their leadership. And should anything ever be brought up in court or anything like that, that would come from them. And so I will say, just kind of informally, school administrators pretty much document everything that goes on anyway. So they do a good job of keeping track of things. So it's not just you're trying to remember something from 3 years ago, for example, but to make it policy, it's just a suggestion that not be required. But so that is, again, the suggestions that came from the conversations between sheriff's office, city police, and our district leadership. So if you have any other questions or conversation, I'd be happy to entertain.
How much questions for Mr. Anderson? All righty.
I do.
Go ahead.
I've already talked to him about it a little bit. So I can see maybe why 1A, the red portion what's been redlined there, is not included. But I like E, and I think that it would be beneficial for principals to document the circumstances of an arrest and have some kind of a written statement, including what they witnessed and things that happened, just so that we have our own record of something. And so I feel like E should be included. And then I think that's it. I was kind of hesitant about E at the end, where it says, if a parent guardian is not present, a school administrator may be in attendance during the interview. I thought it should be must, because at the beginning it talks about how the district's responsible for the care and supervision of students during school hours. But then I know there's probably circumstances when maybe that's not appropriate to have someone in.
So I can speak to the May part. That was due to the idea that usually when the police come to us, it's not a good thing, right? And a lot of those situations, especially with the younger kids, may involve some kind of molestation or some kind of child abuse. And the thought was that we kind of want to protect the sanctity of the school as a safe place. And so if I'm the principal at Flagview and there's a situation like that and I have to sit in on the interview with the kid, then the kid might start to associate whatever they had to be interviewed with what goes on at the school. And so we kind of wanted to just give us some protection to decide, make that decision whether or not we'd be involved. 90% of the time, we're going to be in there if the parents can't, but we just wanted to may it just in case there are those times where, hey, we don't want to cross that line to where now the kid associates being at school with some traumatic event.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for that clarification. And I can see where that is a good thing, but I still really kind of feel like we should have our own documentation of the things that happened. Any kind of documents that were provided by law enforcement or statements that were made or anything like that. I feel like we should have our own documentation of that. Sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
So when we were talking about that part, the police said if we have the documentation, then we're opening ourselves up to be subpoenaed when it goes in front of a judge. And so, like CJ said, we have our documentation. When I left Spring Creek High School, I think I had 45 legal pads that were full of notes. We just do that because we don't remember, but yeah, they'd said, hey, if you do this, then you can possibly subpoena, and that's why we struck that.
I would suggest they could subpoena you if they want, regardless. If you witness something or something like that, they're going to pull you in regardless whether you wrote it down or not.
I don't know. That's just what the police said. They said if we have the documentation, then they'll ask to come in, whereas they won't. And that's kind of like when we sit in on the DCFS interviews, we don't ask questions. We don't produce any documentation because once we interject ourselves into the conversation, then we open ourselves up to being subpoenaed.
To me, then wouldn't it get tricky if what you had for the school documentation is different than the police and it was the police job to do this, not ours?
Yep.
So what if so my question is, what if do we even just document that we document that the child is, let's say that they're taken or that they've been interviewed.
Absolutely.
We document that.
Yep.
Right. So I think maybe that's a different, but as far as, I mean, if we've got our own, what if it's different than, what is it? But the truth of the matter is that police officers aren't obligated to tell the truth to anybody in the situation. They're trying to do an investigation regardless. So what's been told to an administrator is not what may be going on in the situation. And that's just the truth of the matter in our legal system. So, but if we're documenting that these children have been we document that they've been interviewed.
Right.
Correct. Right. And we've documenting that if they're taken by the proper authority. So that documentation is already going on, guys, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yes.
So, but we're like, as far as us having it, it does open us up because then we have no idea what's going on with that. I mean, I would assume most of them.
As Susan said, any inconsistencies, like, because, as much as we may try to be aware, if we, misrepresent what happened in our own documentation because we don't know the proper jargon or that sort of thing, and should something come to court and that is subpoenaed, then we could potentially, if our own errors in documentation conflict with the law enforcement's, then it could potentially cause problems on their end from I don't know what the right verbiage is. I'm showing my ignorance. Like the exact worry I'm having about this is coming out right now. Like I don't know the right terminology, the right verbiage, the right everything, right? And so if I represent it differently than law enforcement, then I could be compromising law enforcement's case, essentially, is what I'm getting at.
So I would say, we talk often about how we want our professional educators to be able to do their job and be professional educators. And I think our law enforcement should be allowed to do their job. They're the experts in the area. And if it is their job to document, this also takes something off the plate of our administrators. And I think anytime we can do that, that's beneficial to our administrators and to their schools and staff.
I do have a question. As far as custody goes, then when in that last paragraph we're talking about in E, if a parent or guardian is not present, a school administrator may, if they're not in there, then they are taking custody of that child. So we're no longer obligated. We're not taking care of that child. I'm seeing a lot of overlap, and I'm just trying to make sure if we don't have an administrator in with that child, then that child doesn't become custody of the of the law enforcement then.
Yeah, I would say so. And one of the, this policy used to exist back when I was a site administrator a long time ago. And Anna and I had talked about it before. So anytime that situation would happen to where, like, we'd have a kid that the cops would show up to talk to him about something that wasn't a major deal, I'd call the parents and say, I can sit in on this meeting, and it's that in loco parentis. So I would explain to the parents, if I do that, I'm not sitting in there as Paul Allen, vice principal at Spring Creek High School. I'm sitting in there in your position. And so if things get to a point where I would not want my kid to be talked about without me being there, I would say, okay, we're done. And that also meant that I wasn't in there taking notes or asking questions. I was just representing the kid and being there for him in case something came up and they didn't want to be involved anymore. So that's kind of how we sit in on those. We're not actively participating. We're just there looking out for our kid. But yeah, I would say if we make that decision that we're not going to be in the room, then even though the kid is in our school, they're with the cop without custody, without us being in custody.
Additional comments or questions? Mr. Anderson, before we get to a motion, section 2B, we removed or designee from the principal being able to give the approval of the law enforcement prior to the interview. Is there a reason we removed designee? If the principal is not on site, then the interview simply doesn't occur? I just didn't know what the reasoning behind or designee being removed is. And of course, Mr. Allen, if you have insight into that. I figure if we're trusting the designee to do what needs to be done in the principal's place, is there, I didn't know if there was a legal reason not to include this, because we do recognize designee in another area of this policy.
Well, that's a good point. I'm not entirely sure why it was removed. I would say that the term principal can sometimes be applied to assistant principal as well. However, we do have schools where, Jackpot, for example, we got a principal and that's the only administrator. And so if she's not there, yeah.
Is there an acting principal? I mean, if we said the approval of the acting principal?
No, not necessarily. No, those schools can sometimes they get through the day without someone acting as an administrator. Usually in those scenarios, a secretary would call up to central office and we'd become aware of the situation and make a decision about what to do. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
2E recognizes it as a school administrator. Should we perhaps use that same language in 1E? Or sorry, let's see that.
2B.
2B, not 2B. Sorry.
2B or not 2B?
Right, yeah, 2B.
You got it, you got it.
So funny.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think if there's a motion made, perhaps suggesting that change the approval of the school administrator, maybe like the presiding is not the right word. That's like a church word. Like the
administrator in charge, the personnel in charge.
Yeah. I'm not sure which is the right word to use, but I agree with you that it, it could cause a problem. So, yeah, just say of the school administrator. I think that's probably fine.
Okay, thank you.
Because that pertains to me. That pertains to all of the directors at central office. Yeah, we all fit the role. We are school administrators still.
So we're gonna change it completely, or we're gonna add it as or? Principal or?
I think if you just say the approval of the school administrator, we just replace principal with school administrator, then maybe that kind of covers your bases regardless of the scenario.
I certainly don't see law enforcement leaving just because the principal's not there.
Right. Now, it could, technically someone doesn't have to be there, right? Like if I'm the principal of Northside where I don't have a VP, someone calls up and says, hey, such and such is happening. And Jeff Revere says, yeah, they can go ahead and interview. They've got the approval. But so, there's still, it'd have to be a scenario where that person's not reachable, et cetera. But obviously, if the scenario can happen, then should be prepared for it and have language that supports action still. So I don't know. It's a suggestion. That's a good find. But I don't know your original question. I don't know why it was removed.
Mr. Chair, I think we could just leave in the principal or a school administrator. That way, the principal should know their students best, but should the principal be unavailable for some reason, having a school administrator in there could, open up that avenue for approval should it be needed. So I think just adding or a school administrator would be helpful on that one.
Sounds great. And I'll leave that language up to the maker of the motion if anyone would like to so move.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve policy JCBC with language amended on, hold on, let me get back to it, on 2B to add or after principal or a school administrator.
All right, that motion has been placed on the table. It's been seconded. Further discussion.
I just have one thing to add. I just like it to be known that, that while I made comments about the investigation and how police officers do their work, and those are factual, I still would like it to be known in full support of police and their work that they do. Unfortunately, when they have to go into those situations with children, and just like folks to know that I do support them, but we have to have all the facts on the table. So.
Can I just throw in there, does this affect D because it says school's principal or designee?
I noticed that as well. And again, I think that could be something up to the maker of the motion, or we could just leave it. But it is
I
that
just wanted to make sure before.
I knew
we
there
were
was some other
finished.
designee that I had in there, and it wasn't until after the motion that I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I think either way. If there's a time an administrator leaves and they have a designee, that can handle this, I don't think we need to change that. But if legal looks at that and says, let's keep the language consistent, I don't have any issue with making that language consistent throughout.
Great, thank you. So the motion stands. Any further comments? A quick search would have helped me. Designee is actually in there 6 times. So if legal wants to make those changes, then I think we can go ahead and do so. All in favor of the motion on the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And item 2.06 is receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy JGE, student welfare food services. This is a non-action item. Mr. Anderson.
So this is an extremely outdated policy. And I think this is one that Susan brought to our attention a little while back. And it is so outdated that we have struck every word from the original and propose an entirely new policy. And so we have the old one, we have the new one, we have the Nevada Department of Agriculture model policy there as well, which a lot of this was derived from. So this is first reading, so non-action, as you mentioned, and 34 years ago, this policy was put into place. I was in 2nd grade. It's been a minute, and so if you have any questions or comments for potential edits, we'd be happy to look at it again. And this was put together collaboration with Paul Allen, Director of Secondary Instruction, who also oversees food service implementation in our district, as well as Veronica Cervantes, who is our food service, I don't know her title, I'm a jerk. She's in charge. Yeah, Paul, she's really the one that oversees our food service. Paul just helps Veronica out when she needs it. So he's nodding his head. It's true. So anyway, Veronica, very knowledgeable about food service in our school district. And then Mr. Salyer, our legal counsel, also made sure we were good to go here.
The NDA policy that you attached, that was just for looking at that to see where you got some things. That has nothing to do with the actual policy, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, I had some questions on here, and maybe Paul, you can explain things to me again. So, at the very beginning, under purpose, number 1, it says the intent of this policy is to establish uniform meal account procedures for district campuses participating in NSLP. The provisions of this policy pertain to full-priced lunches only, but then it talks about reduced meal benefits and free meal benefits in there. But I guess, so my question on here is if, for full-priced meals, it says that students will be allowed to charge a maximum of 5 meals to their account after the balance reaches 0. And students who charge a meal will receive a reimbursable meal. What is a reimbursable meal?
So when, I can't answer that one. There's not many that can. When kids go through the line, they have to have certain items on their tray to make it a reimbursable meal. The milk or fruit or veggie and a main course item, I think. And that was part of the, I can't remember what they called it, but it was Michelle Obama's push for healthier kids. And so that was part of the thing, because what had happened is Paul Allen would go through the line and he would get all the healthy stuff, right? Then Cody Kranka would come through the line and he would get mayonnaise and a burger and throw the buns away and get no veggies. So that still happens, but at least we're giving the kids, you got to take a fruit. That was my job as I stood at the lunch line and checked kids in. You got to take a fruit, give them an apple, give them an orange. They turn around and throw it in the garbage. Kind of ridiculous, but that's what the law states.
Okay, and so I guess my question, who reimburses? Do they have to pay for that? They end up owing money for that
No,
meal?
it's reimbursable as far as us. And a lot of the money comes from the Department of Agriculture and then the Department of Defense. And so in order for us to, when we do the count, in order for us to get reimbursed for whatever portion of the meal, because the lunches are still dirt cheap, right? And so we're not charging the kids the true value of that lunch, because some of the cost is absorbed by those entities that give us things. And so to make it a reimbursable, mean it applies to those programs where we get funding for the meals.
From the federal government.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes
reimbursable.
passed through the state government.
Okay.
And so reimbursable is just the term that we're using
Right.
for
It
it.
means we can we get our money, we get our portion of that federal money from the Department of Agriculture or the Department of Defense.
Okay, so that's for kids that have to pay full price for their lunches. They get 5 of those. If they're- Before what?
Before they get a different lunch. We don't ever turn kids away. So at that point, and this I'm not exactly sure on, but I think at that point they get the sack lunches that we prepare, which is like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a milk, and then a fruit. They don't get their choice of the other lunches.
Okay, so I guess I'm just confused because then under 4, it talks about delinquent meal charge debt. It says delinquent meal charge debt is allowable in school's nutrition program and may be carried over to one successive school year. So if a kid is getting 5 reimbursable meals, but they don't owe money on it, then where does the debt come into play? Like, how
So
do
that
they-
would, I thought that was all, that would be like,
debt?
I just keep not paying for my lunch. And so then I keep getting issued those lower cost meals with the nut butter or whatever they do for the kids that have nut allergies. They're still going to be being charged for those meals. They just don't get their choice of what they want. So a kid, and I can't remember the numbers, but I can remember Karen Nyman, who did our lunch program, complaining that we would have kids who carried a ridiculous amount of debt into the next year. If I got word, as like Mr. Anderson said, the person in charge of our food service, and I got word that we were turning kids away completely from feeding them, that would be unacceptable. So they're going to be able to keep accruing that debt. It's just not as much a cost to us, but the kids aren't getting to choose the items. We're giving them lower cost items that we're still feeding them.
Okay. Okay, so couple more questions. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand this all.
I
because
wish
it
you would
was-
have asked these questions on the policies that I was a little bit more versed on than this food service stuff.
So then we have the free meal benefit. So it says students eligible to receive free meals will be allowed to receive one free reimbursable meal during lunch each day. Additional meals must be purchased. So there's not a limit on those. And then reduced meal benefit. Students identified as eligible to receive reduced price meals will be allowed to receive one free reimbursable meal during lunch each day. And it also doesn't have a number like associated with it, where the full price meals have 5.
So that's,
could a kid that-
that's a different thing. So
Okay.
that means that they get one free reimbursable meal. So that means they can't go through the line and say, well, today we're having hamburgers and pizza. I want both a hamburger and both a pizza. It'd be, no, you can take one or the other of those items, and then if you want the additional item, you've got to pay for it.
So technically, someone who qualifies for reduced meal benefit could go in and get free meals every day
No.
without a
No,
limit on it?
No, they can only get the one still, the one.
One per day, but for how many days in a row?
No, that's not talking about, okay.
I think the word reimbursable is mixing you up because like the free meal, you remember when you said you
Yeah.
had to have the fruit and whatever, that's the meal they're getting for their free lunch.
And the
That's
reduced.
the reimbursable meal.
Right, the reduced cost meal is just, and I don't know the formula for this at all or how they calculate it, but some kids, they don't meet the threshold for the free meal, so they get a reduced cost meal. So let's say they get $2 off. So what's that saying is they get one free lunch. Let's call it that, not reimbursable. They get a free lunch or a reduced cost lunch, but they can't take additional items. And mostly it's the main items. The kid wants to take 2 or 3 apples and they sit there and eat them. Nothing said about that, but it's taking the higher cost items that we don't get provided to us, like the main items. So they can only take a hamburger or a piece of pizza and not both.
And then and it says each day, and there's not a limit on it like there was for the full priced meals.
They're getting one meal a day, right? The
Yes.
same as the full. So, okay, I'm a reimbursable or I'm a not free or reduced cost meal. I go through the line, I get my meal, I pay for it, or I don't. That's talking about if they don't pay for those meals over the course of 5 meals, then we kick into where they're getting the lower cost meal. This is talking about kids just eating every day. So I go through the line, I'm entitled to one meal every day. That's either lower cost or free. I can't take more than one meal at lunch.
So, Mr. Allen, if I may, B and C is the exact same language, except reduced price meal for those who are eligible. So I think that it may be that, I mean, that it's the exact same language. So we're saying whether you're free eligible or reduced eligible,
One,
you
whatever
still
that
get the same
cost
thing.
is. Yep.
So why do we split those then? Why not just have that as one policy? One portion, either you're free and reduced? Because it seems like that's what we're saying is whether you're free or reduced, it's the exact same thing. So why not just call it free or reduced? Because it's that same language, if
I
that's
would-
truly what we're looking at.
I would imagine that's just because that was the way it was in the NDA policy.
Gotcha.
And they are different, right? They're not the same. And so it was just the language to clear. I would imagine the NDA did it because, okay, well, I'm a free meal person. Well, that's different if I'm reduced, right? So they just wanted to specify.
So does the reduced they'll incur charges at the reduced rate and
And
are
it would
they
work the
still
same.
limited by the 5
Yep.
days,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Was that help, Brooke? Because that,
But where's that spelled out?
Yeah, so I
That's
guess
what-
that's where it just was super confusing to me. And now that you've explained it, I see what you're talking about there. But let's say my child is a reduced, has been eligible to receive reduced priced meals. So instead of paying $3, they're paying $1.
Okay.
They have to have that money in their account to pay for their meal. If their balance reaches 0, then what happens?
Same thing happened to the other kid. They'll get that.
Get 5?
Yeah. And I don't know. Actually, on that one, I don't know.
I think that needs to be clarified in here.
Not by me, because I have no idea.
But I mean,
I would imagine there are different rules that apply to those free and reduced, well, not the free because they get it anyway, but the reduced kids, because you're reduced because of a financial hardship.
but they should still be, they're not free, so they should still be expected to pay the
Yeah,
reduced
so-
costs. Their balance gets to zero.
Yep. We need clarification on the reduced
Yeah.
meal section.
Yeah.
I think we can probably stop this part of the
Thank you.
conversation and I'll check, we'll check with
think we should
Veronica.
keep
We'll make sure
going.
to spell that part out differently.
I think we should keep going to make Paul suffer some.
Okay. Keep asking me about food services, because this is my wheelhouse.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to get clarification on that because
Yeah.
it wasn't making sense.
We'll
I
get some
feel like it's
clarification on that
missing some
section.
wording.
Those
Yeah.
are good questions.
Can I go?
No, I'm done.
I do have a comment on the policy, just our overall policy. I hate to see a kid having to pay the price for something their parents are doing. And I'm not really in favor of giving them the sack lunch after 5. If it's through no fault of their own and they're sitting at the table with the other kids and everybody else has got the hamburger and they're with their peanut butter sandwich because mom or dad has decided not to pay the bill. I don't know how frequent this happens at all, but that's just something it doesn't sit right with me. I don't think the sins of the parents shouldn't affect that could be a point of bullying or of, something that could start something with somebody or make them feel a certain kind of way through no fault of their own.
So I guess 2 different perspectives on that. One is the sack lunch thing is a recent development, so I can't speak to how often it happens. I
Yeah.
can speak to how often I saw a kid not get the meal when I was doing this, and I stood at the lunch line for several years. It didn't happen very often. The other side is now that we're not running our own food service. The food service vendor is gonna incur those losses. And I don't know how that would work contractually with what is in place with them. I do know that I had a meeting with them this morning. Our participation is way down. So anything that's gonna impact cost is gonna be a hard sell to them. But I get where you're coming from.
I'd be real curious on some data on that to know how often that occurs and what the result of some of these outstanding balances are, whether or not, if they end up qualifying for a reduced or free lunch because there's some sort of hardship causing them not to pay the bill, or if it's just people who, with bad credit that don't, pay their bills on time. And then it ends up getting paid later on. But like I say, I just don't want to see a situation develop like that where a kid is basically suffering through because it's something they're, because mom or dad doesn't want to pay the bill.
Yeah, I can ask them for data on how often we're given the sack lunches.
So I'm just gonna interject. I'm gonna respectfully disagree. Like, those are your kids. Take care of your kids. Like, that's why we're stuck where we're at right now. And we're talking dollars. We're talking dollars here, like for a lunch. It's reduced. To do the free and reduced lunch application online, probably take you 5 minutes. Everyone's got a phone and they all want to defend how they have a phone. So, I mean, but we have contracts we have to work with. We have people that we have to work with. The sins of the parent, that's something that happens with kids all the time. So I just want to voice that I respectfully disagree that it's something that could cause an issue, specifically when we have such low attendance with it. Anyways, my understanding is it's really, really low, our participation, now that it's not free.
Yeah, I don't want to speak to exactly how low it was, but it was very alarming for them to see and since I'm here talking food service, I want to speak to the hundreds of thousands of people that are listening to us out there online. Please fill out the free and reduced lunch form. Even if you don't qualify, please fill it out. It impacts our funding. It doesn't take very long. And you may qualify for a benefit that you aren't aware you qualify. So when those forms are sent home, Veronica spoke to the fact that she was dealing with those, trying to get them in there as quick as we can to help that participation. So we're not trying to get any information for you for any other reason than to get funding for lunches and to get your kids fed. So all of you out there in TV land, please fill out those forms.
Well, 2 people heard you, so,
Yeah.
and then probably 20 after.
Yep.
And I have to say, kids are usually pretty good about sharing their food
Yeah.
because they either don't want like, here, have part of mine, or, I mean, I'm not saying that happens every time, but kids are good noticing that, oh, so-and-so doesn't have something.
Jeff, I'm going to just interject for a minute. The senior center is actually producing the hot lunch program for the EIAA charter school. Our numbers are so razor thin that if we had to eat as few as 10 meals, it would jeopardize the program. That's how thin that razor or that margin is. We're getting $2.43 a meal, and we have to fit that into the NDA's nutrition guidelines. It's nearly impossible. If we had to eat meals, we would end the program. We can't physically do that. And we're a nonprofit. Looking at 300 meals is what we were hoping for a day. I think we're getting right now close to 200. So with the economies of scale on system-wide, I can imagine. But yeah, I would agree that if we put that into policy of just give them the meal, I think it would impact our ability to provide lunches at all.
Well, let me clarify. I never said don't charge them for it.
Right, but if
Never
they're
said
not,
give them a free meal.
but so maybe I misheard. I apologize. I was hearing you say, don't give them the sack lunch, give them the
Sure.
same lunch as everyone
But
else.
keep running that bill up and they got to pay them, you know.
Right, but the school district doesn't pay that. The school district won't pay that. The provider would have to eat that cost. And that's what I'm saying. The difference between a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a hamburger is enough for me that, yeah, I'd love to give nothing but peanut butter sandwiches because I can make those all day long for a lot less than I can make our cheeseburger. But if I have to eat the cost difference, it's not sustainable.
Again, I'm not suggesting anybody eat the cost difference. If anybody knows anything about food costs, it's me.
Right. But who pays it?
But who pays? I'm telling you, the parent pays for it. I'm just saying.
But we don't have that ability
have
to
that
take them
ability.
Let me
to
finish the
court.
thought, please.
Okay, sir.
Is that we're cutting them off at 5. I'd like to see that at a larger number so that there's more time to address that. Because that to me is 1 week. Some people get paid every 2 weeks. Yeah, it's, if it were up to the food company, they'd be the ones making the policy, but they're not. We are. So that's what I would like to see in this policy.
But we don't
Thank
have
you.
a way to do that. At the end of the school year, we don't send them to collections. Like we don't, that's not an option. So the food service provider just eats it depending on the contract. That's what comes up. So that's what he's saying is it's not like a business otherwise. So there's no business side of it. It just gets eaten up by the contract and then we get to do it. And then the program itself suffers over time. And that's the problem. And when we're talking about dollars over time, what is the cost? Does anyone know the cost? What's the cost of a meal? Does anyone? I don't know.
My costs right now are above $2.45.
No, I mean, like, what's the cost for, like, what are we charging for a full meal?
$3.
Three and change,
$3.65.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for a full meal. So with no joke, when you said it was reduced, it's $1.
And the costs are different. And we talked about that this morning and I don't remember for sure, but elementary kids pay, it was like $2 and something, I think. And
So
then
$10 over. Yeah. So they're gonna rack up $10. And then after that, what are we charging for the reduced one? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay. But let's say it's what, $1?
Yeah, I would say it's probably between $1 and $2.
For a bill out of an ATM. I mean, and I know it's tough out there for sure, but I mean, for me, we're talking about, we're talking about you can't pay $10 to $15 over the course of a week. And when that multiplies over the size of the school district, it puts the whole system in jeopardy.
We had some fairly significant lunch bills at the end of some years, hundreds of dollars. So yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I think staff has enough data on that to be able to adjust the policy if need be, or present the policy and then we can continue to to talk about it when we take action on it, including how we form the motion. If
One
need
other
be.
thing I would say, Jeff, is we're not talking about the poorest of the poor, right? The people who are really struggling. Because if they get on and they do the free and reduced, they'll get a free or reduced lunch. And I don't know what the parameters are for what you qualify for, but we're not talking about the people who really have no means to pay. We're talking about people who, according to the guidelines set by the NDA, and I think I remember them being pretty generous. Like I know of people who have six-figure jobs who, because of the number of kids they had, they were still getting free and reduced. So it's not real stingy with what they provide for the free and reduced.
Well, we may be talking about something that's not even happening again. That's why I asked for data on it going forward, so we can make an informed decision on this.
Something I'll add is, as is the case with so many things we do, it describes at the very last thing 4B that, well, it talks about efforts to collect the delinquent and or bad debt, but really what that looks like is efforts to assist the family in figuring out how to come up with a solution. As a vice principal, as a principal, I spent time myself on the phone with someone because the lunch administrator there would do her best to get someone to pay. And, you know, I've tried calling them for 3 weeks. CJ, can you maybe help them out? I don't want to not give the kid food, right? Like there's a lot of empathy. There's a lot of understanding that goes into it. And so many efforts are made to try to help people come up with solutions. And, you know, sometimes there's a language barrier. I didn't know I had to fill out a form. I didn't know the form was in Spanish. I didn't know where to find the form, right? So there's lots of efforts that go towards helping people. Where you cut things off at the full price, those things get put into place to avoid the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Those things are also in place to make sure a kid doesn't go through like my stinking kid did the other day and rack up Fruit Loops because his friends know he has money on his account and wants to get Fruit Loops, or not Fruit Loops, Fruit Roll-Ups. And just like all of a sudden the account's negative, and it's like, why is the superintendent's account negative, right? Like there's got to be, kids will just sometimes run up stuff they're not supposed to have. And so you have those phone calls with parents. So there's a lot of one-to-one attention given to situations, whether it's someone being a little delinquent or it's, hey, there's obviously a problem. I know this kid, I know the struggles they have. Why do they not have a free meal application figured out? And we work with those families to do that, whether it's a secretary or an administrator or the teacher notices it. There's so many adult eyes that see those things and care about those things for those kids. I mean, Michelle's back there, she's a teacher, and she knew the price of the lunch off the top of her head because I'm sure she's had to talk with her kids and with some of her kids' parents about this already. So it's something we work with them a lot. We're not letting kids go hungry.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll move on. All righty. 3.01 is a consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion and second is on the table. Are there any discussions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 4.01 is superintendent's report.
Thanks. So I just report on a few things, but I won't go too into detail with most of them. It was great to, a couple weeks ago, host in Elko both the PACT Risk Management Conference. Heard from some of the same gentlemen that we heard from earlier today, along with many others, including some of our own folks who presented. And then, and also we were able to host NAS, or not NAS, I apologize, NASB, here that weekend as well. So great to have school board members and public entity folks from all over the state and town to benefit from that conference. I also spent a day in Las Vegas at a Nevada Future of Learning Summit with, it was pretty great actually. There were legislators there, there were business leaders, school leadership, higher education representatives. It was this collaboration of folks from all over education and the workforce. to talk about the Nevada Future of Learning that we've been engaged in for at various levels for the last few years. That ties in again to what Southside was talking about. That's their kind of boots on the ground, a team at a school perspective, and then where I was last week was a very high level perspective on how we are preparing, having students prepared for the future, our pillar number one. And one of the highlights of it was, so you've probably all heard of the Carnegie Foundation before. There's a thing that exists called the Carnegie Unit, which has pretty much guided public education for decades. It's why we have seat time, whether you agree with that or not is a different story. But the CEO of the Carnegie Foundation was there to tell us essentially the Carnegie Unit is no longer relevant to public education in today's modern society. And he was there to applaud the efforts that Nevada is going through to modernize our education, to I don't disagree. I don't agree with everything about the changes to the funding formula, but basically applauding efforts to get with the times essentially when it comes to our education. He also was extremely supportive of changes to assessment systems, changes to a lot of the stuff we're talking about. That the accountability measures we have are not good ones. That the assessment systems are insufficient to evaluate the good that schools are doing. And it was just really interesting to hear from, because it's one thing for me, a superintendent of a school district, to say, hey, I know the scores look bad, but I promise we're doing good things, right? Like someone could say, well, he's just trying to save his bacon. But to hear the CEO of the Carnegie Foundation, like to encourage the efforts we're doing and to not be deterred, to continue to push forward, and to say that in front of all those other entities was pretty great. So that was kind of a highlight of last week to hear from him. And then we also heard from the state superintendent and from just different folks all around the state who are engaged in the work. So it was very good. And I think that's probably it that I'm going to share with you. Well, I guess I will point out that next week, and I think you may have, I can't remember if you guys if I've shared this already or if you've seen it elsewhere, but if you're available at 10:30 on Tuesday, the 24th, so it's a week from today, 10:30 in the morning, Spread the Word Nevada is opening or is expanding the good work that they do with providing books and literacy to our students. They're opening up in Grammar number 2 this year. So they've added another campus thanks to generous donors where they get their funding. So they'll do a ribbon cutting there at Spread the Word Nevada, or at Grammar number 2 for Spread the Word Nevada next Tuesday. And if you can join us, it's great. 10:30 a.m. I know you're off on Tuesdays, Josh.
I have appointments in Winnemucca.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't know your personal calendar. Anyway, yeah, please join. It'll be great. Kids will be smiley and
Be there in spirit.
getting books. I'll just carry like a little fat head of you around.
I have one of those. You want one?
Yes, I'll bring it with me.
All right.
Comments, questions for Mr. Anderson? I'm going to throw this one out, and I apologize if this is something you don't necessarily aren't prepared to discuss. I've received a few questions today regarding athletics at middle schools.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer it.
Thank you.
Schools should be sending corrected information out. I've already seen some of it. So quick synopsis, because my phone had nothing but questions about middle school athletics. Who knew that was the most important thing for people today, was 7th grade basketball? But it was. So what happened, real quick explanation, and I saw some of the Facebook comments and whatever. Like, some people are unhappy that we are making sure that we are covered liability-wise. Like, that's what it boiled down to. So our middle school athletics was not running in a manner that was acceptable to either legal or pool pacts. And so in order to make sure that not only are the adults that we're putting in front of our kids safe to put in front of kids and educated in such basic things as CPR and first aid and sportsmanship and things like that, as well as making sure that we have proper medical clearance for kids. So it was it was less structured before than it is going to be now. And so we sort of became aware of this problem, and on guidance from both legal and Pool Pact, we decided to forego the fall track intramural season. And then someone who oversees that program or works with that program was concerned that we would not have our ducks in a row in time to start by mid-October, the basketball and cheer, I think, intramurals. And so they made that decision to notify these schools that we would also be not participating during that season. However, upon receiving the many messages, we checked with legal. We feel confident that we're going to be able to. And so schools that very quickly put that information out, hopefully will very quickly put the new information out. So we will be carrying out middle school intramural sports in an acceptable and safe manner for our students moving forward.
Thank you for the clarification. Anything further for the superintendent? 5.01 is board matters. Who would like to start?
I will. Just wanted to thank everybody for the way we represented with NASB in town. That was a great event. It was nice having the workshop beforehand and then being able to kind of get a second look at all that information. I took a lot from it. Not much to update on NASB right now. Shout out to West Wendover. They're 2-0 in football for the first time in at least a decade. We've got a new coach over there and a deal for some pizza, and they've been doing good. So yeah, I do. But if they win, they eat. So we've been having fun with that one. So shout out to those guys for really and in all the sports over there. But that one's been fun to watch. So
it's not the coach; it's the pizza.
That's right.
No offense, coach. I'm sure it's the coach.
It's definitely the pizza.
Anything else from board members?
I have a couple things. I agree with Jeff. The workshop was great. Sorry, not all of us were there, but we had a good time. And I learned a lot, some great useful information. And I'd like to thank Mr. Anderson, like the letterhead looks really good on documents.
Really good on documents.
Love it. So thank you for doing that. It looks very professional. And then I would like to have a few policies reviewed and possibly updated. One is JBB and JBBA, JBBB, and what is this one? IHF, I think. But I have them printed off, so.
Will you say that last one again? I was saying bye
I
to
think
Susie.
it's IHF.
All right.
It's written different. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But I have them printed off so you can look at them too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from our board?
I have a couple things.
All right, fire away, Dr. Byers.
All right, so I apologize. I missed the NASB conference. All right, guys. I was roughing it out, yes, driving 8 to 9 hours up to Washington State to go tour, and it's a hilly campus, so I was hiking as well. And then we had to rough it out, Washington State versus Texas Tech, where Washington State destroyed them. It was a great game. Had a good time. It's a little smoky, a lot of smoky. So then I had to drive home. So I apologize that I missed that. So, but I heard it was awesome. So I did want to just let everyone know and say happy National Constitution and Citizenship Day. Hopefully everyone knows that. Oh, did I steal your thunder? Oh. Well, if you don't know, in 1787, it was enacted. And I would encourage everyone to read their Constitution and try and get a better understanding of it. The other thing, I've had this book the whole time, The Anxious Generation. People need to read this, take care of their kiddos. I just want to read one thing, and it'll probably come up down the road. In it, the author.
No filibustering, by the way.
Yeah, filibuster.
No filibuster.
No filibuster. The 4 foundational reforms. Please do this with your children. So anyone watching, all 2 of you, and the other 20 that will watch later. No smartphones before high school. No social media before 16. Phone-free schools, and far more unsupervised play and childhood independence. These are reforms we should be doing ASAP. Just my 2 cents. And that is it. Thank you so much.
Anything further from our board?
I actually want to throw a challenge out. I apologize I didn't do this earlier in the meeting, but to our student board member, love to hear something exciting going on at your school. If you would like to fill us in on maybe an achievement or just an activity, something y'all got going on.
Yeah, we're still getting into the swing of things. We had a great first day of school assembly. Everybody was really excited. I think we're gonna have some good student sections this year at the basketball games and football games and stuff. But we got homecoming coming up, and it's gonna be on October 19th, and we've been able to plan a lot of that out. We're actually gonna do a parade for it. And we didn't do it like last year or the years I've been here, but it might have been done in the past. We actually had the student body vote on what theme they wanted. So we had each class in student council make a slideshow on the theme they wanted. And it was between like Back to the Future and Spider-Man. The seniors made Spider-Man and it won. So that's gonna be our homecoming theme. And yeah, that's all I've got so far.
Thanks, Scotty. Very briefly, had the pleasure of taking Battleborn Youth Challenge Academy down for a community service project at the Safe Haven Wildlife Refuge. And I don't drive bus a whole lot, but boy, were those kids well behaved and quiet. It was almost creepy how quiet that bus was. But I just wanted to say thank you very much to the cadre out at Battleborn Youth Challenge Academy for what they're doing, and our partners down in Imlay were very appreciative of everything that was done, as were our tigers and lions that were down there, that to have cleaner cages because of it. I shouldn't say that, cleaner enclosures because of that. So with that then, we will move on to 6.01, approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion on the table. It has been seconded. Any discussion, disclosures?
I need to disclose that I have a close relative that works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining from voting.
I have to disclose that I work for Lone Wolf, so I will be abstaining from voting.
And I will disclose that I also have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining from voting as well.
All righty. Anything further? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 7.01 is the final option for input from the public. Seeing none, we will adjourn and see everyone in a few weeks. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Safe travels home.